Today's episode of the WAC Podcast is brought to you by Hercules Tires, the official tire of the Western Athletic Conference. Now here are your hosts, Eric Danner and Rachel Vigil.
Welcome back to the WAC Podcast. Eric Danner along with Rachel Vigil. As promised, we're joined by UNLV swimming and diving coach Ben Loorz. Coach, congratulations on a WAC championship this past weekend.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Coach, first off, well, what led to this? I mean, what you were the favorites coming in. Air Force has been kind of the team to beat the last few years. What did you have to do to beat Air Force and the rest of the WAC this week?
Yeah, it's partially, Eric, the culmination of course, of a lot of years of recruiting and culture building and putting together a squad that's got good depth and breadth. And so, in some ways, there's no magic pill. There's no secret to it. It's just, accumulation of a lot of years of trying to put together what we thought would be a championship squad, and pleased to say that it was. In terms of this year, particularly a COVID year, certainly all of us, had some hiccups and some people out for quarantines or whatever else. I mean, and being able to manage that well and keep moving forward through any sort of adversity. That was certainly a big piece of this particular year.
In a strange year already with COVID, how much extra does winning this championship mean to your crew?
Yeah, we definitely talked about that, in that some may look at this as sort of an asterisk year, as like, oh, well, it's COVID year, like this team got to train this or this team didn't get to do that or whatever. But for us, that asterisk means a lot more, actually, that, hey, we did an amazing job of having a culture of really protecting ourselves against getting shut down, a culture of really doing what it took. I mean, a lot of extra hours in the week for the staff, for sure. And I know we're not unique in that. I'm not saying we are, but instead of kind of taking the off ramp this year, we really decided to push back against that adversity. And so, yeah, we believe that means makes this championship more special, for sure, because the student athletes certainly sacrificed a lot, and they always do, as you guys know, in Division I. You sacrifice a lot on your social calendar and just your future plans and whatever to do this and do it at a high level. And whatever a normal year entails, this year was triple that, for sure.
Coach Loorz, as you mentioned, different year with COVID, and part of that led to actually you getting to host the championships this year. Normally,
right,
the past few years we've been in Houston and combined men's and women's and diving, and weren't able to do that this year. In terms of hosting, this was the first time in 26 years UNLV hosted the WAC championships.
Yeah,
I have to imagine that might be a positive in a way, that we had to separate things.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, you can talk about a home field advantage. And frankly, in swimming, it's something that we've never really, as you noted, never really had, or even had a concept of like, hey, is this going to play to our advantage or not? Like, I really wasn't sure. I'm pleased to say that this is a much faster pool than it was in the 80s, 90s. They redid the pool in 2009. And so, we used to race actually down here at the diving board end. And then this end was shallow. It was like 3.5 feet deep. That is no longer the case, so we're 7 feet deep minimum all the way across. And so it's, we've got backstroke wedges and, all the tricks and bells and whistles that make it a much faster pool than it was back then. One thing that was unique to being here that initially I wasn't super excited about is like, okay, you're not traveling. You don't have the whole team together like in a hotel and can debrief after each session and sort of have that team travel experience that I think lends to the excitement and sort of the puts everybody on notice, like, hey, this is the big meet. I was a little worried initially about hey, is we going to be able to get up for this meet with everybody just sort of rolling in like they roll in from practice from their apartment or whatever, walk into the pool from the dorms. And, I'm pleased to say I needn't have worried about that. That ended up being not really a factor like I was worried that it would be. So, hopefully we get to go back to Houston or somewhere else next year. I mean, that's a super fast pool and we love going there. So, but whatever it takes to have a championship, we're just glad we were able to provide a space where we could get it done and get it done affordably for the conference.
Coach, as somebody that was able to watch it live, the meet, there were a lot of really close races and there was a lot of fun to watch. Was there one in particular that you were really holding your breath on?
Man, holding our breath. I mean, always the sprints, certainly the 50 free, we did a good job of delivering at finals. I mean, that was anybody's race. There was no clear front runner in that race. And you got some great athletes in there. I mean, you got Corey Shepard, you got Flo from Grand Canyon. I mean, some really, and it could have been anybody's race. And so that was certainly one that we were holding our breath on. Probably, in retrospect, another one we were holding our breath on, Rachel, was just the very first race of the entire weekend, which was the 200 medley relay. I mean, that's something where Air Force was just lights out a year ago, but we knew we had a good shot at that this year. We knew we'd assembled a really good 2 medley. And that one's always such a short, fast race. It's such a barn burner. We were definitely holding our breath before that one and happy to say we were able to come out on top of that one. And there's a couple that were close like that for sure.
We're talking with Ben Loorz, the head swimming and diving coach at UNLV. And as Rachel mentioned, there were some great races there and you had some great performances, specifically in the distance races. You broke some records there.
Yeah, we did. And those are ones where probably we weren't holding our breath because we sort of knew after prelims, like, hey, this is ours to take care of if we've got the grit to do it at night. And really, really proud of our distance crew, both the 500 and the 1650. I mean, that was really unprecedented as far as I know. I don't know the entire 40-year history of the WAC, but I know it decently well. And I've never seen anything like that in a distance event. I mean, it was pretty remarkable what those guys were able to do. And of course, you've got Vuk at the top. He's a world-class talent. And so you want to hats off to him, and he's going to NC2As now. So we're really proud of him. And certainly him leading the way made a huge key contribution to what that group was able to do. No question about that. But also you got to look at guys like Cam Castro, who a year ago did well in this event. He was top 8 at conference, but he was, 15:33. And for him to, lop off 24 seconds in that event and, be coming in at number 31 in the country right now. I mean, that's just monumental improvement in a year's time. And, this is a guy who, he was like, when we got shut down, he's from Southern California, as is Chris Micken, and both those guys in that group, when we get shut down for all summer, and those guys, Cameron was out there in the ocean, as was Chris. I mean, they were out there doing 2-hour ocean swims all summer long until their pools got reopened. It's like, those kind of time drops don't happen by accident. They happen with guys who are like, hey, this is what we got to do. We're distance swimmers. Like, let's go get some volume in, and they got their dads out there, like paddling along in a kayak for 2 hours in the ocean, while they just get it done. So hats off to them for not only delivering at the championship, but for having the foresight way back in June to take care of business.
That's some real dedication right there.
Yeah, for sure. And as any coach knows, like having a distance group that has dedication, that's money in the bank. You can't really have a dominant distance program without guys who get it and who, have dedication when they're by themselves. That's Anson Dorrance's quote. Anson Dorrance, the head coach of North Carolina women's soccer for all those championships. And, he's like, that's the vision of a champion, is somebody who's, bent over, exhausted, drenched in sweat when nobody's watching. And that's a champion.
Coach, one other question for me. In terms of the split, so you guys are there at UNLV having the men's championship, but the diving's taking place at Northern Arizona. Right. How much of an eye are you keeping on that and keeping track in terms of what you need to do on the men's pool there?
Yeah, for sure. And that was certainly the case with the Mountain West Championship a week prior as well, because they were out at Air Force Academy. So both of us had, split championships in swimming and diving. And we follow every session, 100%. My associate head coach, Pat, is amazing at deciphering divemeets.com. He's really good at, so we rely on him a lot. He's like, refresh. He's like, here's what's going on. Oh, Jesse needs to score a 48 on this, dive in order to be top 3, or So we rely on Coach Pat a lot to keep us up to date. But yes, we are all on it and updating that as we go every session for sure.
Well, Coach, this won't be the last one for me as well. You had a pretty big lead when it comes to points, especially going into the last day. At what point did it really sink in that you had won the championship?
Yeah, that's a good question, Rachel. I mean, we knew after prelims on Friday, to be honest, that probably if we had just continued to do what we were going to do, that it was going to roll our direction in the end. We stacked enough people in the Friday prelims that we thought, as long as we keep delivering and there's no major, sort of quarantine business or something crazy like that, this meet's going our way. And at that point, it became a different challenge because I felt like our Friday night session was a little bit lackluster, to be honest, in terms of energy. And don't get me wrong, there were some phenomenal swims in that session, so I don't want to detract from what those individuals did. But as a group, we were a little bit lackluster. And so we really challenged the guys. We're like, hey, this is not, the ninth round of a boxing match where the points have been decided and you're just dancing around each other for the last round. Our job is to keep throwing punches no matter what, and really ignore the score and really do what we're capable of doing and bring the energy like we've been bringing it. That's our job no matter what. And so the guys, to their credit, did a really great job of that on Saturday. And the high point score you see, I believe, was a result of that. The guys not taking their foot off the gas pedal. So credit to them.
Coach, I'd like to have one more question for you.
Yeah.
NCAA is coming up. When do you find out how many swimmers you have going and what are your preparations for the NCAAs now that you're kind of in this limbo after the championships?
Yeah, and at this point, we don't really seem, Eric, to have anybody on the bubble. Vuk looks to be in solidly. And then it looks like everybody else will probably be just out. Obviously, a couple other teams waiting on guys. We've got Jesse going to diving zones, and Jamie. Those guys will have a chance to make it on the diving side. So, that's part of the preparation. They'll be back in the water today and prepping for zones next week. We've had Vuk in the water this morning. As you can see, behind me, we're set up long course. So for a distance swimmer, that's a good chance to kind of refresh his aerobic system a little bit and get his stroke lengthened out. And so we'll get him going there. We've got a couple guys who are maybe in the 30s, 40s, but probably we think once Pac-12 finishes up, those guys will probably be out. So looks like just Vuk right now, maybe diving. And part of that preparation is to sharpen him up in terms of his turns and his underwaters. He is long course world ranked, and he does better in that sort of setup. And so for him to really compete against the top guys in the country, he's got to get much better in and out of his walls. And so that's something where we feel like 3 weeks is enough time to make some ground there. We're not going to do a lot in terms of improving his anaerobic capacity or something in the next 3 weeks. We just need to keep him in a good spot. But there's certainly some things like his turns that we can clean up and make some good headway even in a few weeks. And so that'll be our focus with him.
Well, Coach, thanks so much for joining us. We really do appreciate it, and congratulations.
Yeah, thanks so much, you guys. Appreciate the time.
All right, that has been Loorz, the head swimming and diving coach at UNLV. Thanks for listening to this episode of the WAC Podcast.
Make sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. And check out our website at wacsports.com.